two types of custody, right? There's what's called physical custody, which means where the kids live. They live with mom, they live with dad. Is a roughly equal, division between mom and dad. That's physical custody. I think that's what most people think when they think about custody. The other one is legal custody, which is kind of more abstract to folks, but this is just as critically important, right? So who makes decisions? Who decides what school the kids go to? If there's a medical procedure and the parents don't agree, who gets to make that final call? In terms of extracurricular activities, and the kids play football, they play soccer, and what activities are they in? That's legal custody. Religion plays a big part in this, especially in cases where parties are of different faiths. They have different viewpoints. Who makes the call on that? And that's legal custody, right? So it's important to divide it up. We're gonna do that here and break it down in a little more detail here. So, what does it mean if mom or dad has sole legal custody? So if one party has sole legal custody, what does that mean? It means that parent makes all the final decisions regarding medical, education, religious, and extracurricular activities. So, the way it works in the state of Missouri is, let's say mom has sole legal, she still has to consult the other parent, but at the end, and try to have a discourse, but if they can't agree, mom gets the final say, right? So, I think our child should be on X medicine. Dad says, I don't agree with that. Mom says, okay, well, we talked about it, and I'm gonna do it anyway, right? That's what sole legal custody means. It's a big effect. It's a big issue. So one parent is not the equal decision maker in the upbringing of their child, right? One party has a final say. Joint legal, in contrast, means the parties have to agree, which means either parent can veto it in essence, right? So both parties have to be on board. It's like a 50-50 Senate. Both parties have to be on board, otherwise it doesn't happen, right? That's joint legal custody. So just to talk about this kind of briefly, in most instances, and we'll go to the next slide, in most instances in Missouri, we see joint legal custody. That's what judges typically do in cases. That's the way it's worked for a long time in Missouri. There's instances, though, where you see sole legal custody. If the parties agree to sole legal custody, most judges will approve that. In cases where one party is making bad decisions in their own life, right? So let's say somebody has a criminal history, so they're not making good decisions in their own life. A judge might find that because they can't make good decisions in their own life, then they're on the short end of the stick on legal custody. There could be a case of domestic violence. In those instances, one party might get sole legal custody. But generally speaking, both parents, pretty good parents, they just don't get along. We still see joint legal being the case of vast majority of the time, right? But sole legal happens, and it's an important thing, and that's why, if you're going through a divorce and you got kids, it's important to know the distinction between these. What does it mean if one party has sole physical custody? It means the children spend the majority of the time at that parent's house. The children are enrolled in the school district of the parent that has sole physical custody. The other parent has limited contact with the children, so you're not talking about a roughly equal split. Where joint physical custody, in contrast, means both parents have roughly proportionate time, but it doesn't have to be 50-50 exactly. And the way the law works in Missouri is that technically what the statute said is that in Missouri there's a presumption of shared custody, which is basically joint custody, but that term isn't used precisely, but shared custody. And so the movement in Missouri has been toward giving both parents a lot of time. I can tell you, like I said, I've been doing family law 14 years. Early in my career, the non-custodial parent would get, oftentimes, there's this case in Missouri called Siegenthaler versus Siegenthaler, which was this important Court of Appeals case. In that case, the dad got every other weekend, in essence, Wednesday, some summertime, some holiday time, and that was called a Siegenthaler parenting plan. I can tell you probably my good first 5, 6, 7 years as an attorney, you would see these plans on a shelf. People would refer to it as the standard plan. And so that was real common, but there's been a movement and a shift from that in Missouri, and a shift toward shared custody. And it's different counties. And again, this is where the judge you have makes a big difference. A lot of judges are very pro 50-50 custody, very pro roughly equal time, and there's some judges still kind of shifting toward that Siegenthaler plan. And it all kind of came down to this this psychological research that used to be out there. I talked about this last night, but it's true. I remember early as an attorney, I would come in and let's say I had a dad in a case, and I'd say, my client really wants 50-50 custody, he's a great dad, you know, he's involved in his kids' activities, and I mean, he's there, and he's got no real skeletons or bodies buried in the backyard. I mean, there's nothing there. There's no reason why he shouldn't have 50-50 custody. And the cutback always to me was, well, Kirk, the research. And at that time, the judges were citing this research from psychologists at the time, which said, you know, kids shouldn't live out of a suitcase. They need to have one primary room. There shouldn't be this back and forth. That's bad for kids. And kids should really be stationed in one house primarily. They should visit the other house. Okay, that was the research. But new research, and again, I'm taking sides, I'm not taking a position, I'm just telling you the way this research has gone. There's been new research over the course of the last decade that has turned this upside down. And you see this in society in all kinds of respects, right? Society goes one way, they flip another way. But the new research that everybody's citing says this, which is shared custody is good because it keeps both parents checked into the game. And then under the old research, what was happening is dads were checking out because they felt like they didn't have an active role in their kid's life, they only get every other weekend, and they were checking out. And so then you have dads who checked out, and they didn't pay child support, and that this was bad for society and was bad for kids. And so the new research says shared custody is a presumption. You just see this shift. Jefferson County, for example, I don't know where you're all from, but Jefferson County has been very 50-50 custody. Very 50-50 custody. Well, I mean, in most cases, you know, I mean, I've had cases where even the dad might work 80 hours a week. And you'll see, you know, no matter what side I'm on, you say, well, you know, the dad's working 80. And the judge will be like, well, he's going to have to quit working 80. Because I'm giving him 50-50, and so he's going to need to cut back his time. Right? Yeah. In other places, that's not really the case. You still kind of this Siegenthaler's mind. This is kind of the way things are kind of shaken. And in a custody case, you know, what judge he has makes a big difference. Are we looking at the old research, the new research? What side you come down as a judge makes a big difference. But again, the statute says shared custody, which means parties have substantial time. That doesn't have to be 50-50. Doesn't necessarily have, but it can be 50-50, depending on the fact. So there you go there.